Android Study Jam Session 1. More than 80% of the smartphones that you find are Android, and most of you must have one too. You'll see a lot of apps and you want to know what is behind all those apps. So that is why we have introduced Android Study Jam series where in a series of sessions as well as code labs, you'll get to learn the basics of making an app in Android using Kotlin language. You'll learn how things are made, how things are shown, and how things get displayed, how to publish. All these things will be covered in a series of sessions starting today. The learning objectives of today's session. Let's see. You'll be building your first Android app. You'll set up Android Studio on your computer. You'll learn the basics of Kotlin programming language. You'll make your first Android application. And also, you'll run your first application on your physical device or your virtual device. So today's schedule. First, we'll get an intro to the Jam. Then we will be introduced to Kotlin. Then you'll get started Studio. You'll learn to layout and activities, and you'll run your first application as well. So here's about the Android Study Jam. I'll share a link in the chat where you can find this course module. Android Study Jam is divided into 2 tracks, which you can find it here. I've shared the link in the chat. Kindly go and check that. Yeah. This is the Android Study Jam landing page, which you will see. The new to programming course, that is what we are covering today. And this is prior programming experience. This prior programming experience basically means programming experience in any language. It's not specific to Kotlin. So these are the 2 tracks we have in this study jam. If you click on a track, you'll come to there are 2 units, and each unit contains many pathways. Like in this, you have all these 4 pathways, and as you complete each pathway, you get digital badges which you can show on your developer profile. Your developer profile, that you will be notified as you complete each track. So at the end of each track, there will be quizzes, and answering those, you'll get answering those questions will get you the badges. So that's about the study jam. And now let's get started with Kotlin. So this is what I just said, each track. These are the 2 tracks. And this is a pathway, these are the 4 tracks that we'll be covering today. These are the 4 pathways that we'll be covering today. Answering the pathways, you're going to get digital badges that you can show in your developer profile. So let's get started with Kotlin. Some of the keywords that any programming language specifies is these are some of the keywords that are there that we are going to discuss today. Println, fun, main, repeat, class, random, and when. You must be wondering what these are. So let me show you something. Go to this link. I'm sharing it in the chat box now. This is where you can play with Kotlin. This is called Kotlin Playground, and this is where you can keep practicing your Kotlin code and do everything. And this is where I'll be teaching Kotlin. So here I go. When you open, this is what you're going to get. This is a pre-written code that is written here, and you'll find few things that I just said in the presentation. The keyword fun, the keyword main, println, and there is some code written here. and that's going to print. If you click run here, that's going to give you hello world. What does fun mean? Fun is basically what we call as a function. Main is the name of the function. Main function in Kotlin code is what that drives the program. Every program must have a main function. One thing that you must notice here is Kotlin does not need any header files or anything as such, and here is the code. Okay, so here is the hello world code. You can change this text to anything that you want. You can type here happy birthday maybe, and if you run, you're going to get output as happy birthday. So, and println is a print statement, and ln stands for lines. For printing a single line in Kotlin, you're going to use println function. These are all built in. So let's now get some more code into it. Let's start with variables in Kotlin. Variables are name storage places in the name storage places in memory where is the keyword that specifies the name of the variable to go on. So if we declare a variable age and initialize it to, suppose, call it a number 5. No need of any semicolons or anything in Kotlin. And we are even going to get another, we are going to create another name, suppose. Creating variables in Kotlin, there are two methods. One is val and one is where. Val is basically used when you don't want to change the name of the variable, and that is when we are going to use where val. And if the variable name is going to change, then we are going to use where. What is that? We can write here anything. Suppose we call it a name. Now that we are getting this warning, it's because these variables was never used in our code. If we want to print age and name, we are going to write the syntax goes as these are just part of this string. Sorry, that. So if we run this, we are going to get this age. The same way, if you want to print the name, you can go on with saying name equal to so these are some of the basics. I just saw a question in the chat section. What is file extension for Kotlin? It's .kt. That you will see when you get into the app. So yeah, the next thing that you will learn is now that you learned what a variable means, now let's create a happy birthday banner for this. So for when it's hard coded, when you just type the whole code for the banner, it will go something like this, and this does not look so good, right? So even if we run this, we are going to get a pattern, and this seems a lot tedious, especially when it comes to coding, and do people don't prefer this method. For this we have something called functions. So let me introduce you to function. So yeah, let's create a function. Let's erase all this code here. Let's create a function. To call the function, we use this command. So if we create the same banner that I just showed, it will go out as this. Okay, there seems to be an error. Yeah. It's the same code that I just showed has been printed again, but here we have used a function. So we just have to type this once. If you want it more times, you just need to call the function. So this is how function functions. Sounds interesting, right? See, now that I have put it twice, now we have got that twice. But this also seems like we don't know how many equal to's are here, and every time you want to do, you need to count this. And this is not that interesting to do. So for this, we have something called a repeat function. Let's try that. The repeat keyword is basically for a loop. Like it will repeat as many times as a number that you specified. Suppose if you want to print that equal to 23 times, so it goes on like this. And here you called it twice so that it looks like a good banner, and you gave this equal to, and you're going to get the banner as 23 times here. And as you see, there was no end line statement here, so that is why we got it like this. We can avoid it if we add another blank statement. Now the code looks better, and you have not done much work also, because you have used the for loop for repeating 23 times this equal to symbol for creating the banner. Now that it may seem that this is not looking like a code or something that we have to do. So suppose imagine you are making a birthday cake for a person and you want to put number of candles as number of so for that these things become much useful. So that all those exercises are there in the code labs that you'll do on in the course that is just said. Now that you know, there is one problem in this code. If we want only equal to symbol goes on, but what about the other symbols? Like if you want something, we'll have to change it in the code. Why not in the input itself? So that is where it comes when we have to take arguments into the function. So let's go with it. So let's an argument is basically what is passed into a function. If you want to pass a string, then we'll have to specify it in our code. So let's do this. To take an argument, we need to pass it here, the code. So just a minute. Yeah. We are passing a variable of the type border, string of the name border, and we are calling that here. So whatever be the value of the string that's passed by the main function will be what that gets printed. But we are not passing anything right now, so let's correct our code accordingly. And here it is. That. For the value border, and this time let's give something other than equal to. Let's say, suppose we want a banner of hash, then we say and then we are calling the function border, and we are passing this variable. Run this code, you're going to get, okay, there seems to be an error. I'll just check it out. Sorry for that, guys. And now it shall run properly. Now again, we have found this problem of not having a next line. We can resolve it if we can write another print line with a blank space in it. This shall resolve the problem. Okay, not this, not here, wrong place. Now it shall. We got this banner with a customized. So this is how you pass arguments into a function. Print. So let me answer some queries that you have. Println means print in next line. Println means print a line. That is, yeah. And that's it. We have with functions. Now we can customize, you can play around with anything that you want when it comes to functions. Now let's see what a class means. Before calling a class, let's see what a range means. Let's clear all this code. Range is if we want to have a range of, like, what comes to your mind when you hear the word range? Just respond in the chat. What is range? What is the first thing that you get? If you guys are hearing, then do type something in the chat. In between min and max. Yes, you're absolutely right. In between min and max. So let's start. If you want to give a range, if you want to print something between a range of numbers, and if you want to randomly print a number between a range of numbers rather, how are we going to do that? To do that, we'll use the range, the random function and the range keyword. Let us see how this is done. Now that you can see some code, here you can see we have created a variable dice range, and here 1 to 6 we are making a dice app. So everyone has played with dice, right? It can be Ludo, it can be Sudoku, anything like that. So to print something between these two these two numbers, we go on by putting the two dots, the first number and the last number. So this is and we have declared a variable. We've also called a variable called random number, and we have used the random function. What random function does is it randomly gives any number from the starting number till the ending number, both inclusive, and we print the same method. Let's run and see what this gives. It gives you the 4. Next time you run, you're going to get a different output. This is how the random function works. It's not just for 1 to 6, you can do anything, some 23 to 50. Just the two dots specify the range. You're going to get any random number. So this is what is random function. And will it always print integers? As we have specified the type to be integer, so yes, it is going to print integers. Random function works. Val, or just someone has asked in the chat that val for variables. Yes, we can use val for variables. Val is used when the variables have to be unique, and var, var is used when the value of variables are not are going to change. Val will make it constant, that it's not going to change, but var you can manipulate the result. It's like a Ludo game, right? At the end of this session, you will have your own dice app, an Android application. At the end of the session, you're going to have a dice app which you can play in this winter holidays. So next thing that we are going to cover, it's going to be class. Okay, what comes to your mind when you first hear the word class? A group of students. Yes, you can call it. Class is basically a group of anything. You can classify cars, bus, autos, everything into a class called vehicles. Basically, a group is called collection of something. Yes, absolutely. Class is collection of something. So now when you're going to code, you'll be needing classes because you're going to have everything inside a class. A class groups the things. So let's create a dice class. So yeah, here we go. Let's erase all this code for now. Let's have the main function. Let's get rid of this code. Let's create a class and let's call it dice. And our dice class, so what does our dice class do? Our dice class is going to show us that there are 6 sides in it. Let's call where dice side equal to 6. Now, to create an object of a class, like a car belongs to vehicle, so car stands out for a object of the class vehicle. So to create that, we are going to use the keyword dice. Let's call it dice object. it's a variable, so let's call it that. This statement is going to make an object, a dice, from what is there here. Now if we want to print the number of sides, we can do it as the name of our dice is dice object. And rename it as side so that it's easier to type. That should. Okay, there is some error. Let's see what it is. It's that we don't have to do this. Can only type. Now that you got what you typed here, what to define the class, that this dice has 6 sides, that's what you got it printed here. So this is how you're going to go with. It was just a typo. The thing is, when you work with multiple languages, you do get confused with the syntax, and it does happen often. So what shall we do next? A class can also have not just variables in it, a class can also have functions in it. So let us see what a function, how we can call a function inside a class. For that, let's roll the dice and get a random number. We just learned what a random function does, right? So let's implement it inside a class. So this code, we have created a variable my first dice of the type of the class, an object of the type class dice, and it prints the sides that we have specified as 6, and here it says my first dice dot roll. This is how we call a function which is inside a class. Here we have defined the function roll. The roll function has a random number which prints a random number from the range. This is also one line notation for printing the range. The 2 dot notation dot random. This is going to give random number from this range. So the println random number will give you a random number from this range, and this function is being called in the main program as using this syntax. Yeah, first line says print line my first dice size, which is 6, that we have specified as 6, and my first dice dot roll, which has given a random number from 1 to 6. That is, right now it is 1. Next time you run, you're prone to get a different number. You got 2. It's not numerical, but yeah, this is how it works. So next thing, let us see. If you want to return a number, a random number from this function is just printing. If you want to send it back to the main function and display its result or manipulate the result, then how are we going to do that? Let us see. Yeah, here we have the same program, my first dice, called making an object of type dice. Then dice roll a function that is calling this function inside this dice, and it's printing the value. This goes on with the same thing, but here we see what is different is a return statement. Here return statement is returning the random number that's generated by this function random. So the number that generates here is being passed back to the main function using this return statement. So when we click run, what it does is the random number is passed back here, and when dice roll is called, dice roll is a variable which calls this function, that gets printed. So now that you don't have to add the print line function also inside the function that's roll, so you can manipulate this function in any way that you want. Here you can observe one more thing, that here I've put 20 and still the number of sides is 20, but here we see that still the number is going from 1 to 6, right? Because you have not passed this 20 anywhere inside our code. So to do that stands out as a question. So you need to do that also. For that, you can specify a number of sides as a parameter to the class. So this is how the parameter goes with. You're giving a parameter, an integer parameter, and here you type it till the number of sides, and here we need to give number of sides as, suppose we give 6, and second time you are making another dice of say 20 sides, then and you change it to 20, then you should get, you shouldn't remove this, yeah. Then you'll get the result accordingly. Okay, you still have an error. Sorry, it has happened. Function was not defined as an integer, that is why. And see now, yeah, now that you're passing a parameter, an integer parameter 6, and second time for the second dice you're giving a number 20. For the first time you'll get a number from 1 to 6, but for second you're going to get from 1 to 20. This is how it works, and this covers all the basic Kotlin concepts that you need for making today's app. Any questions till now? Feel free to ask. Just remember everyone, you need to complete the code labs and the quizzes to get Do we learn the basic? Yes, it's covered in the course code lab. So yeah, we'll share the code with you all. Like after the session, you'll get all the code. So don't worry about that. Will we be able to run our applications on Android device? Yes, you can. You will be able to run. Any other doubt? Next, we'll jump into. How many of you have downloaded Android Studio? How many of you have not? If anyone has not, then please download. Why are we using fun? Fun is the keyword for having functions. So if you want to have a function, you're going to use the keyword fun. What is the use of val and var? Val is and var are used for declaring variables in Kotlin. Val is used when the value will not change, and var is used when the value will change. So yeah. If you have not downloaded Android Studio, then please download it from this link. Go on with the default installation. Yeah. And can take a 5 minutes break. We'll tune. Any other doubts? Feel free to ask in the chat. The session's recording will be available on all the social media platforms, and now even on YouTube, this session will be available there. we are resuming now. Let's get started. So, all of you must have downloaded your Android Studio, and right. So, just go on with the basic installation, and let's now start by creating a new project in it. Before creating a project, let's discuss some important terms. First thing, what comes to your mind when you hear the word user interface? It's like what you see on the app is what is the user interface. Like the text, the images, the buttons, other types of element, and it shows how the app and it also it's just the front part, the beautiful part that attracts you to see the app. So we'll be making that for a dice rolling app now. Each element in the user interface is called a view, and almost everything you see on the screen is a view. And a view group is a container in which all this view sits in, and each have a relationship with each other, making a layout. So let's get started. As you all have your Android Studio installed, you can actually start working together. So yeah. Just open your Android Studio, leave all settings to default, and now let's create a project. In a minute. It's getting installed, then do watch it. We had actually told you guys to have it installed. It's okay, it's still okay. You can put it into install if you have it. Yeah. You will have your front screen something similar to this, right? I hope it's the same for you all. Okay, maybe not all these projects. Something like this for everyone. Just put it in the chat if you find the same. Yeah, good. So now let's create a new project. Let's call it an empty activity. Next, you can name your application whatever way you want. Right now, let me call it something as the Dice app. You can actually call it anything you want. It's the name of the app. The package name, it will come default, and don't bother about it so much right now. We'll discuss in the later sessions about all these things. Yeah. The language, make sure the language selected is Kotlin, because you are learning Android development in Kotlin in this study jam series. Make sure to have it. Leave everything else to default. Don't worry much about all those. So, and click finish. It will take about a minute to create a project. Let me share this. Many of you will get these tips. Yeah, you can close that. Now that you have your app on your screen, let it get built. Just a minute, so that all you need is a strong internet connection for this as well. because many things don't work when you don't have good internet connection. It will take a lot of time. Along with the machine, you just make sure your internet is working. Yeah, so this is done. Now let's go to the project folder. Check on all the files that we have. We have the app folder, the source folder, and many more things. Here we have something called Android main.xml. It's loading. Just a second. My internet is weak. Maybe. Yeah, 4 GB RAM stands as the minimum requirement for having Android for running Android Studio. It shall coolly work. Just a second till this one. Now that it's done, this is the screen that you will get. This is the Android main.xml file that I opened. You can find it in the project folder, and it actually opens as default. So don't worry much about all these folders. All this will be covered in the further sessions. So don't worry about all those. Let's see what you're seeing in the screen. Right. Above in this part, you'll see a run button. If you have not created an AVD, you can create it by clicking Tools, AVD Manager, Create New Device, pick up a phone of your choice. You can go with anything, like click Next. I already have this downloaded, but you will have to download it when you do it for the first time. One of the system image. Preferably go with the higher ones. It won't be any issue because these are officially released, so that won't cause any issues. Next, you can name your device anything you want. You can call it my device. Leave everything to default. Click Finish, and you'll have your Android virtual device ready. Clicking here, you can play the device. My screen is visible, then I hope you guys can see that. Yeah, connecting your laptop through your own Android device through USB is also a method of running your apps, but installing virtual devices makes it faster for you when you are coding and testing, because every time you want to rerun the app, you'll have to download it into the device, and if there is an error, then it crashes in between. So that's totally up to you. If you are having it in your physical device, then make sure to enable debugging mode after going to settings. In settings, you'll find an option USB debugging. Make sure you switch it on if you are connecting your own device through USB. While installing, just check Android virtual device option. It is preferred. So yeah, now we will have our emulator running. Just show you what the emulator looks like. So here I have my own Android emulator that I just created, and it opens with the default settings. All this setup, it's just like having your own device. You can have your own pixel inside your Android Studio, and that's how it works. So now that you have an app that you just created, click on the run button. You will have the default AVD selected. If you have other devices, you can click that as well. Another Pixel 4 I've already downloaded. Choose that. Right now I'll choose to go with the device I just created. Like if I click a run button, okay, yeah, you can see the app launching in the emulator in a second. Okay, that's due to weak internet connection that I'm having this problem. Just a second. That's actually due to problem in internet issues that's causing all this. That's why it's preferred always to have a strong internet connection, especially when you're working in Android Studio. Just a second, I'm reconnecting my device. Shall work. After connecting your Android device through USB, go to Settings, enable USB debugging mode. Meanwhile, the Gradle processor building, let's just get to know some of the basics of like what exactly we're going to do. We just saw what a class does. So we'll be creating a class and make a dice rolling app. That is, it randomly gives the number and for you, like it displays the random number in the application. This is how it's going to work. Now that my Gradle has finished, I'll just show you. This is the default screen that you are going to get after building the default application that you just made. So now you just said the hello world to the world of app development here. But now you're seeing that you haven't done anything, but still you have this hello world. That's because what you chose was from a template and not a blank app. What you chose was an empty activity template, and that's what that cost. Okay, now let's make some changes. Say, like we want to edit this hello world text. Let's do that. Let's make it into a dice app, or maybe anything like that. Let's start. So yeah, in the activity main.xml, you can find this screen. Here you can edit the text. You'll find the text here. You'll edit to anything. My dice. If you run this, you'll be getting, instead of the text hello world, you'll be getting my dice app. Right. So this is how it's going to work. But yeah, you'll be seeing a warning at first. And yeah, you can ignore the warning for now. It won't be any problem. Like I'll tell you what is that warning for. Yeah, here you have the dice app text written instead of hello world. In the app bar, you see the dice app, which was the name of the app that you just created, and it comes out as default. And now you just change the text. Now you have a warning here. Warnings are not actually errors. If it's an error, then it would have then the app would not have run. So you can fix it because the string resource has not been added. You can just leave it everything to default and click OK, and the warning also disappears. If you want to change the value of the string, then you can go to project, resources, you can find it there. Yeah, the thing is, it's got edited in that particular file. Now it seems that you have not done any code, you just added a text, and that too with a just changed the text, right? But now we want to add code. So let's add some code to the app. Let's go to the main activity.kt. KT is the extension for Kotlin files. Yeah, the first file, the default file, that is the main activity.kt. In that you will find some random texts, rather not random, but some texts which you'll be thinking what do they actually mean. Package com.example.dice app. This was the name of the package that was specified when creating the app. And this import statement, it's giving you all these things should not bother you right now. Don't get confused by seeing so much code. This will be discussed in the next session. Right. So now let's make something and do rather than just seeing what. Let's create a dice class. Okay, I'm so sorry, my screen share was off. Just a second. My internet has gone a lot weak and I'm really sorry for that. Yeah, this is what you find. Let's go to the main XML where we had this text. Let's add a button into our layout. Just drag a button from there and add it here. And you're going to have a button, but it doesn't seem aligned, right? So let's align it with the text. Add a constraint, as it states, one top, one bottom. Arrange it accordingly. Make this into 0 dp, match the constraint. Yeah. This is what you're making, is building the relationships with the layout, with what I said was a view group and a layout and everything. Now you have a button. Yeah, a button, a text, and this button now does nothing. Right. Now let's go to this main activity. Here we see a class called main activity, which adds a compact activity. In our Kotlin code, what we said was a main function. Here we have a class main activity, which on create function creates the main display screen of the application, like just like what the main function does. The same thing the on create function does in the Kotlin code. I mean in the app code. So this is how it works. Yeah, there are people asking for the button thing to repeat. Go to your Android activity main.xml, drag a button into the screen, place it anywhere, add some constraint, just click on the plus button. It shall get you some default. Drag it till the up and try build some relationship with the text by just dragging this into the text and everything like that. And that's it. Yeah, I just deleted it because we don't need 2 buttons in our app, right? Delete this button 3. Yeah, okay. Now we have, this on create is going to create the screen and the saved instance.bundle. Don't worry about all this code. And this activity._main is what the layout that we just built is what we are going to display. That's what this function is telling. Under this, let's create a variable and let's call it a roll button. Let's do that. Let's add a roll button, a variable called roll button, and find ID by button. Here we can see the button does have an ID. Here we have its default the button 2 because I added and deleted the buttons. Okay. Yeah, I just named it to button. So this error shall disappear. And yeah, we have got a variable roll button find view by ID. Because to create the relationship with the view through a code, you need to give this view by ID, and ID we mentioned it to be button. And now we don't want the text to be displayed here as button, right? So let's change it to a function called, a name called roll. Let's display the text as roll because we want to roll the dice. So here goes the text. Now that we have a button with us, let's create a on-click listener. An on-click listener is basically what happens when you click the button. What happens when you click the button is what that says in the on-click listener. So let's create for this variable role button that we just created. Let's create a role button dot on click. This is for, we are calling the button and calling its on click listener in its view, and we are calling a function roll dice. But here we notice that it shows an error that roll dice function has not yet been created. So let's create the function roll dice. So now the error has also disappeared because we created the roll dice function. If you remember what a roll dice has to do in the Kotlin code that we just discussed. Okay, I will just change the font possible. It's because my internet is weak today. I'm really sorry. We will have more sessions. Don't worry about that. It's not just one session. What's all this line of code? Please explain. Yeah, explaining that. The on-click listener is what is used for saying what the button does. The button that we just added in our XML file, we need to say something that if we click a button in the app, it has to do something, and that is what is done by this set on click listener. Just if you type roll button dot, we are going to actually, and we are like in the suggestion you will get all this. If you can choose it from here, and you are calling a function. I just repeated the code again, so I'm deleting it. Now we have created a function roll dice. So what a roll dice should do, it should give a random number from 1 to 6 because a dice has 6 sides. Shall be shared to you people through a GitHub link shortly. I mean, after the session ends, like before ending it. Just that due to the net issues, you're getting the screen share as blur. Don't know what can I do about it. I'll just check what if there's anything that I can do. I've just changed the font and I hope it should be visible. You guys are finding it. blur. Yeah, I think we should carry on with the session. I'll check about the internet connections later. The GitHub code for this shall be shared with you people after the session, so don't worry about that. I'll make sure in the other sessions that you'll get proper like this code thing. Let's create a class for the dice. I know we are running out of time and people just stay here. Don't rush it out. What a dice class should do is to just give a random number from 1 to 6. Right. So let's do that. Let's create a dice class. Private, it's a property of class that makes it that the things inside the class should only be within it, and it should return a number from 1 to number of sides and the random number generated. So this class, the function role, is giving a random number. So now inside this private function roll dice, which is being called here, we need to create the further lines of code accordingly, that every time the button is clicked, let's do one thing. Every time the button is clicked, let's raise a toast and make this, just give a sentence saying the dice has been rolled. And a toast is, I will show you, like that should be better. We'll be having further sessions, don't worry about that. Yeah, every time this roll button is clicked, you're going to get a toast. Okay, wait, the layout has changed. Let me check that as well. Something. Horizontal constraints have not been added, maybe because of that. Now if we rerun the app, then it shall work. Yeah. Now every time the button is clicked, you get a small text under it saying the dice has been rolled. So this shows that our button is working and your first Android app has been created. But now we see that the class we wrote and the function roll that's to generate a random number is not yet making any effect on our app. So let's see what we can do about it. Let me share the code again. Yeah, that's probably because when the on click button is clicked, only the roll dice function is called, and roll dice is only showing the toast. That is the small text that we just saw. So, but we need to make it roll according to the function inside the dice class. So let's do that. Let's create a variable of the type dice of the class dice with number of sides as 6, and then call the roll function from within. This should probably make our job done, right? So let's do that. There I've created a dice. Number of dice as 6, number of sides as 6. Here we are taking number of sides as an integer, so we'll have to pass an integer. And yeah, don't worry, this half of this code comes pre-written when you do it. Like if you do val dice and you make a variable, say a dice, then and you type a number 6, then automatically the num side joins in. Yeah, and you want to call the roll function. So of this dice dot roll. The variable is dice. So dice dot roll. So this function is calling the roll function inside the class. So when we click on the button, the roll dice function is called, and the roll dice function is calling the roll function which is inside the class dice. Dice is what which is functioning. So let's see now. Still we see that the app will not show the random number even though our code is perfectly fine. The reason for this is that our code is not being displayed in the app. We have not given anywhere that we need to display it in our app screen. So for that, let's create a variable result text view, then find it by the ID of the text view that we have, and then add it into the code. So that is, we have created a result text view of the type text view, find view by ID. Yeah, ID for this ID for this is the text view does have an ID here, and yeah, text view does have an ID here, and that's the text view ID, and the result is being displayed. Now if we rerun the app and see, you can see that your app will run, and it will give you a random number on the UI screen of the app. Let's just see how. Share the screen. Yeah, I think I have this. Now if you see, okay, there's some here. Just look into that. Why do you think this error has occurred? It's because the text view here has been changed. So this is how you are going to have the strings around. It's probably I'm getting build errors due to the net issues and code is not. Now that you have done, your app should actually work fine. Yeah. Oh no, it's build is taking too long due to internet issues. Really sorry for this. I'll just show you the finished app, that is including the image view. One of the apps that I made, which is covered in the code lab as well. I'll just show you that, and you can find the GitHub code as well, as you guys are running out of time as right now. It's due to the net issues that I'm not able to get the Gradle build done. I'll go on with the code that I've already written. I hope that shall be fine. I tried coding, but the final app, including adding images, we ran out of time, but yeah, I'll teach you adding images as well. Would be to generate a number and the dice here. That's how it was supposed to go, but due to net issues, it's not happening. Yeah, till here we have discussed everything that is to create, and go on, let's just a second, guys. Where will we get code for this app? You'll get code in GitHub link. I'll share it to you shortly. In a few minutes you'll have the code. Yeah, now you can see the app that we just made. Yeah, after the Gradle build. The same code that if we click on roll, we are going to get the random text, a random number as text above. So this is how the app is supposed to work, what we just made here in the code. So that's all for today's session, I guess. It's already 6. Yeah, and there's no further code. We have coded the whole app together, and yeah, the core source code will be available. And yes, that's it. Before ending, all I just want to say is if you have any queries, do reach me out in Telegram. I'll be available there. And do complete your code labs and get your digital badges for both the tracks. So yeah. You will get the GitHub link in DSCLPU page, GitHub page. The code will be updated like in another 10 minutes.